Thank you all. Please be seated. Well, Barbara and I thank you all very much, and Barbara and I are just delighted to have you here on this special occasion. Welcome to the White House. I'm going to keep this relatively short today, because afterwards, Richard Petty and I are going to take a few laps around the ellipse in number 43, so we've got plenty to do. But Mr. Vice President and Mrs. Quayle and members of our cabinet, special welcome to all of you. One of the great privileges of being president is being able to recognize and honor some of our finest Americans. And that's exactly what I'm doing today by awarding the Presidential Medal of Freedom to 10 people who have made extraordinary contributions to our country. Today, freedom is mankind's North Star, and I'm grateful that more people have breathed their first breath of freedom over the last 4 years than at any time in history. And the great question of the Cold War was whether people would put their faith in the state or in themselves. And freedom won, and America enjoys the fruits of victory as people around the world join in the great democratic experiment that we began some 216 years ago. History honors those people who wrest the torch of freedom from the hands of their oppressors. But in America, that torch lies safely in the hands of the people. And the Presidential Medal of Freedom honors those who carry that torch. And our light of freedom is bright enough to light the world. Today, every man on the street in Moscow realizes what Americans have always understood. And it is human nature to be free. And just as nature abhors a vacuum, so does human nature abhor the absence of freedom. And so today, in essence, by awarding people from these various different pursuits, we celebrate the triumph of freedom by recognizing these 10 American greats who've set an example for the world. The Presidential Medal of Freedom was reestablished by President John F. Kennedy, who tragically did not live to award it. And when President Johnson awarded the medal to its first recipients, he said that President Kennedy had intended the awards as, and here's the quote, a means of national thanks and encouragement for the selfless effort and the brilliant task. In a sense, he was talking about what we refer to here as points of light, as a point of light, because the definition of a successful life must include serving others. And America's greatness lies not in its government, but in its people. And it's not enough to be free. We must serve each other. And each of us, each of today's award winners certainly understands this, and each is a great American. Their names read like a roll call of American heroes. Harry Schlotterman, a tireless crusader for democracy, who after a life of public service came out of retirement 2 years ago to ensure Nicaragua's peaceful transition to democracy. And David Brinkley, the elder statesman of broadcast journalism, his record speaks for itself. Richard Petty, who rose from humble beginnings in Level Cross, North Carolina, to become the king of stock car racing. General Vesey, who was the ultimate never-say-die soldier, the last four-star combat veteran of World War II to retire. And General Vesey came out of retirement to counsel my predecessor and me and to help us reach full accounting of all of our Vietnam veterans, and he's still engaged in this pursuit. Elie Wiesel is another type of veteran of World War II who survived the Holocaust and still today keeps watch against the forces of hatred. And Isaac Stern, one of the greatest violinists of our time, who has brought music to countless others. And I.M. Pei, the modernist architect whose work graces skylines worldwide. To much of America, Johnny Carson was late-night TV, and with decency and style, he's made America laugh and think. And Johnny, I don't care what you say, I still think Dana Carvey does a better impersonation of you than he does of me. And finally, two special medal recipients who couldn't be with us today. By doctor's orders, Ella Fitzgerald and Audrey Hepburn are unable to join us. Ella Fitzgerald has changed the face of jazz since she was discovered as a teenager, and she is an American music legend. And Audrey Hepburn, whose acting career put her among our most talented artists, but whose work with the International Children's Emergency Fund put her in our hearts. And I wish they could be with us today so that I could recognize them personally on behalf of our nation. Today we reward your greatness with America's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and you will join the ranks of our nation's greatest public servants, scholars, and entertainers. And if you'll please step forward to receive your medal as Commander Joe Walsh reads the citation.
The President of the United States of America awards the Presidential Medal of Freedom to David Brinkley. The name David Brinkley is synonymous with television news. From his days as NBC's White House correspondent to his time as co-anchor of the Huntley-Brinkley Report to his Sunday morning show on ABC, David Brinkley has explained the complexities of current events to generations of Americans. With the wisdom of experience and a wry wit, he has informed the nation's citizens and helped hold its leaders accountable. The United States recognizes his contributions to broadcast journalism. Johnny Carson. One of America's greatest television personalities, Johnny Carson left the Nebraska plains to preside over late-night TV for almost 30 years. With a quick wit and a sure golf swing, Johnny's good-natured humor kept the pulse of the nation and assured us that even in the most difficult times, it was still okay to laugh. The United States honors Johnny Carson, who personifies the heart and humor of America. Ella Fitzgerald. Discovered as a teenager at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, Ella Fitzgerald and her swing style of vocal jazz transcend the times. Her trademark scat captivates audiences, and as a cultural ambassador, her impressive vocal range stretches across oceans and political boundaries. Honored by the Kennedy Center for her lifetime achievements, inducted into the Jazz Hall of Fame, and awarded the National Medal of Arts, it is fitting that the United States honors this First Lady of Song. Ella Fitzgerald could not be with us today. Yo-Ming Pei. Perhaps the most famous architect in the world today, I.M. Pei's architectural feats represent the pinnacle of classic modernism. His very name, Yo-Ming, means to inscribe brightly, as his buildings have illuminated skylines worldwide. I.M. Pei has found beauty in simplicity and boldness in geometry, setting the standard for modern architecture. For the legacy of artistic elegance he has inscribed in our cities, America honors I.M. Pei. Richard Lee Petty. In the world of stock car racing, there is only one king. Richard Petty is more than racing's monarch. He is an American legend. From humble beginnings in Level Cross, North Carolina, number 43 became one of racing's finest and fastest. Winning a record 200 races and 7 Daytona 500 victories, Richard Petty found freedom at 175 miles per hour. The United States honors this American hero for exemplifying the dreams, dedication, and drive that make this nation great. Audrey Hepburn. As a gifted actress, Audrey Hepburn captured the hearts of millions. Yet she has a most profound effect on young people who will never know her as a princess in Roman Holiday, as a model in Funny Face, or as the woman in black in Breakfast at Tiffany's. With a passion that rivals her beauty, Audrey Hepburn is a tireless worker and a devoted special ambassador for the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. America is proud to honor Audrey Hepburn, the star whose light is reflected not only on movie screens, but in the bright smiles of children around the world. Audrey Hepburn could not be with us today. Harry W. Schlotterman. Ambassador Harry Schlotterman is one of America's most decorated and masterful Foreign Service officers. In almost 4 decades of service to 8 presidents, through international crises and war, he has faced every challenge with personal bravery and professional skill. He demonstrated his loyalty again in 1990 when, at the request of the President, he came out of retirement to serve as ambassador to Nicaragua and helped ensure that nation's peaceful transition to democracy. For his decades of meritorious service, courageous diplomacy, and protection of our interests abroad, the United States commemorates the service of Ambassador Harry Schlotterman. Isaac Stern. Since his debut 56 years ago, Isaac Stern has become one of the world's preeminent violinists. His warm and vibrant interpretations have brought him international acclaim and our nation's highest honors for artistic merit, the National Medal of Arts. But even beyond his triumphant career, Isaac Stern has enriched the human spirit by broadening the scope of music, supporting artists from all corners of the world, helping to found the National Endowment for the Arts, and rescuing Carnegie Hall from the wrecking ball. For his support of the arts and his lifetime of achievement, the United States recognizes master violinist Isaac Stern. General John W. Vesey. General John W. Vesey was the last 4-star combat veteran of World War II to retire from active duty. A self-described mud soldier, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff never forgot the men in the field, and he returned from retirement to search for soldiers missing in action in Vietnam. His wise counsel to 2 presidents has helped to break an impasse with Hanoi, culminating in Vietnam's recent offer to provide all information about Americans missing in action. The United States honors General John W. Vesey, a soldier statesman who would not leave anyone behind. Elie Wiesel. Few people have seen a darker side of humanity than Elie Wiesel. During World War II, he saw most of his family killed while imprisoned in the Auschwitz and Buchenwald concentration camps. And yet, this author, philosopher, and winner of the 1986 Nobel Peace Prize still sees the promise of human tolerance, learning, and faith. He challenges people of all religions to remember the Holocaust, that it may never happen again. His deeply spiritual life and literature remind us that to protect freedom's flame, we must remember that which threatens it. The United States honors this keeper of that flame, Elie Wiesel.
Well, I think that concludes our ceremony, and Barbara and I'd love to greet you all out here. And it's been a great pleasure to have everybody here, but a special pleasure to be able to honor the 10 so recognized today. Thank you all for coming.